Happy politics, and welcome to a very special edition of BC Poly Hotstove, and we'll get to why it's special in a bit. But for now, my name is Maclean K. I am the editor-in-chief of the Orca, and I'm joined in a socially distant manner by...
It's Jordan Bateman, VP Communications for the Independent Contractors and Businesses Association. It's special because we're not going to talk about the Calgary Stampeders. Right?
Well, you say that now. Now I'm going to shoehorn it in somewhere. The rules are out the window this week, and we'll talk about why. But let's delve into the reason people started listening and following us in the first place, and that is concise, hard-hitting, and often not quite humorous takes on BC
I thought it was
politics.
our good looks. I thought it was our good looks and our epic
Well, I
rants.
was getting down to that. The twisted steel and sex appeal. Those of you who watch us on YouTube are treated to every week. You can sort out for yourselves which is which. But let's start by, over the weekend, Jordan, the big news in BC politics was, it was not much of a surprise. It was the Vancouver-Kilchenna by-election result. I don't think there's a single observer in BC politics who, given a dose of truth serum, thought the result would be anything other than what it in fact was, and that is that Kevin Falcon will be the next MLA for Vancouver-Kilchenna. He won I think it was almost 58% percent of the votes.
59.
59, I beg your pardon. Not very high turnout. It's a by-election. But let's get into how the other parties finished and, what lessons may be derived insofar as you can take lessons from a by-election result.
Well, first of all, you're right. It wasn't a surprise who won. I do think the margin was a little bit of a surprise. I was expecting Kevin to have less than Andrew Wilkinson, simply because Andrew Wilkinson was a multiple-term MLA in 2020, leader of the party, and it was a general election. Turns out he actually went up from what Andrew Wilkinson had. So that's good news for Kevin Falcon. I know that it seems like the media seemed convinced, and I believe because the NDP were sort of floating it to them, that they were going to hit 30% in that riding. They did not. They hit 24.5%, which was down, again, from 2020. And you're right. So, a few things we should talk about. We should talk about, Falcon obviously survived all of these different attacks. I want to talk about Jeanette Ash and her sore loser comments. And then we should talk about the two, I'm going to call them fringe parties, although they're not equal. The Greens actually do have 2 seats. But the BC Conservative Party is basically your definition of fringe at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we'll start with Falcon, and you were quite right to say that no one thought that he was going to do anything other than win. The only discussion was going to be by how much. And he's right around. You comparing his results to Andrew Wilkinson, and that's a totally fair thing to do because it is the same riding. But again, it's a by-election, and again, all bets are kind of off to an extent. What was the turnout? It was like less than 30%, I think.
Yeah, it was small. It was municipal-like in its turnout.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, all the things we're about to say in terms of like lessons for the parties, you should take with a grain of salt. You can sort of perceive through a glass darkly some things in by-elections, but you should always be it's a very small sample size and not even a very representative one.
Yeah.
But yes, the good news for Falcon is like the worst case scenario would be losing your by-election as leader. That obviously did not happen.
Yep.
And now he can look forward to the next steps of becoming the MLA and the actual leader of the opposition. He is not that. He will be. It's an interesting quirk of the system. You can be the premier without having a seat, but you can't be the leader of the opposition. And Elections BC will need to certify the results. Hopefully that doesn't take long. Again, they're not in dispute. And then he has to be formally sworn in as an MLA. We don't have a timeline, but I think next week is within the realm of possibility.
That's good. And then he'll be there for the last few weeks of session and, most importantly, Premier's estimates. Now, let's talk about the attacks on Falcon. So the NDP tried a number of different things. They definitely tried to tie him to policies made 20 years ago by the Gordon Campbell government. Kevin was I think it's fair to say, junior Minister of State for deregulation at the time when they were first sworn in, and then eventually worked his way up, given his success there, into transportation, health, and finance through the rest of the Campbell and then a little bit into the Christy Clark years. They tried to tie every terrible thing or mistake that the BC Liberal government's made during that period of time to Kevin Falcon. Clearly, Vancouver-Kilchenna did not care at all about it, not one whit. In fact, if the NDP vote shrunk and the Falcon vote, the BC Liberal vote went up, it's possible that they were actually reminding them of all the great times that were going on. You might make that argument. Look, take from an old BC Liberal who rolled my eyes when our guys in 2009 were still going back to the dirty 90s, and in 2013 they were still talking about the 90s. Those things have shelf lives.
Yeah.
And I think the shelf life is even shorter than it's ever been as far as old government things. And here's why. Attention spans are way shorter. The media cycle is just going so fast. Everything's happening so quickly now that people don't really remember scandal by scandal what went on in the 90s or the 2000s. And you take away kind of high level things. And so Falcon can go, yeah, you're darn right I was controversial when I was in there, because I was the transportation minister who put it through the Canada line when every mayor in the region said no way. And guess what you're all riding today and love more than, one of the most popular pieces of infrastructure in Lower Mainland. Oh, the Canada line. Yeah, I built that. So, it goes both ways. The NDP have been in power 5 years. By the time the next election happens, it could be as much as 7 or 8 years. And they will be held to their own account. Their record and their failures will be much more pronounced and fresh in people's minds than random ones from 2005 or 2007. The big things will still be in people's minds. The Port Mann Bridge, that was built by the BC Liberals. The Sea to Sky, the Winter Olympics were a BC Liberal thing. But even those now are kind of faded away. Just like the NDP can't believe they don't get credit for cutting the tolls anymore on the Port Mann Bridge. That's ancient history by today's standards. So all that to say, look, not to give the NDP advice because I don't want them reelected, but bluntly. But going back to weird things from 20 years ago does not resonate, especially with millennial voters, and certainly anyone younger than that. So I believe that strategy was a failure.
Well, you make an interesting point about how the strategy of pointing to the previous government, it works until it doesn't, and I think you're exactly right in that that works. It works until it doesn't. There's a shorter time frame now. Yeah. It will not be as effective. Couple reasons. You're exactly right about the shorter time frame, but also, the provincial government's own data suggested that I think 100,000 people come to the province every year. Those people don't care or remember.
Do they bring a doctor with them?
Yes, they did not. They forgot. They selfishly
John
forgot to
Horgan
pack a
can't
doctor.
believe that. Where is their doctor? Why didn't they come with them?
But these are the issues that they're going to care about in the next election, is things like the doctor shortage and affordability and housing. And what government did in 2001 or 1995, just it means nothing to them. They weren't here, and if they were, they don't remember or care. So yeah, I think you're right. If that's the lesson I would share with the NDP is, look, I understand you are going to be very pugnacious in this by-election, and you're testing a lot of lines for the general election. Fair play. I don't think it worked.
No. Well, the numbers say it didn't. Falcon won by more than Wilkinson, and Jeanette Ash lost. She had less than the other. So the numbers speak, right? Okay, well, that didn't work, so you better start finding different messages. So that was one piece. Jeanette Ash. I thought Rob had a really interesting piece in the Orca today, kind of recapping. The NDP considered Jeanette Ash to be a big get, poli-sci, whatever, from Douglas College, deep roots in the NDP world, including federally and municipally, obviously. Married to Candy Stewart, the former NDP MP, who's now the NDP mayor of Vancouver. And she was not great. Like most political science professors, political science instructors, they don't really have a lot of on-the-ground experience in campaigns. Those who can't teach, as the old axiom goes. It's why I roll my eyes sometimes at Hamish Telford from UFV, and they come up with these pronouncements in their poli-sci professors, but don't actually understand the mechanics of campaigning. Her comments on election night were of the sore loser variety. Never a great look. One of the great traditions in politics, Maclean, is how concession speeches are almost always that candidate's best speech.
Yep, it's true.
Al Gore, they generally rise to the occasion.
Yeah. John McCain.
A
really good one. Yeah.
Perfect example. And it's sort of a moment where it's over. You've lost, but you can come off really gracious, kind. She basically spat in the face of voters, saying voters are idiots for electing this guy.
Yeah, I was struck by. I mean, you're right to point out that she's a first-time candidate, and there's going to be some bumpiness. That's inevitable. But I was struck by sort of how I was. What's the word? Across the line. Some of it. It was just always 100% aggressive to the max, and I don't think it landed. I listened to the debate that she had with Kevin Falcon on I guess the Mike Smith show. And just, yeah, very, very completely aggressive. There's no discussion there. Falcon gets asked a question. She cuts in to say that he's mansplaining when he's answering the question. It's just stuff. I don't think that worked, and I don't think it landed. And I mean, that's one of the takeaways that Rob Shaw in his piece was that again, understand he's the leader, and they've been focused on him for quite some time. So yes, it was always going to be an aggressive by-election campaign, but it felt a little. I don't want to say it was across the line in terms of being inappropriate, but it didn't land. It always, you found yourself reading these comments or listening to it on the radio and going, "Oh man, like, relax a little, just a little."
Yeah. Yeah, and look, they made all sorts of stupid mistakes. They brought Sheila Malcolmson in to talk about mental health and addiction, and given the NDP's policies and record on this is an abysmal failure, record levels of overdoses. That ministry has not worked, but they brought her in as some sort of validator. I don't think that helps Jeanette Ash. If I were her, I'd be like, "Hey, thanks, but no thanks. I'll talk about these issues on my own. You do something else." The NDP campaign there. Look, I'm not going to say the BC Liberal campaign was a well-oiled machine. I thought it did things very well. It had a lot of door knockers out. It didn't take anything for granted. Did a lot of voter ID. They were worried about the lack, of excitement. It's a by-election in May or in April.
Yeah.
It's tough to get people terribly excited to go out and vote.
Especially when they've been told over and over again that the person they're probably going to support is going to win.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's Saturday, it's beautiful.
100%.
Complacency can be a real enemy in these situations.
Yeah, but they delivered, and then they overperformed the Wilkinson vote, and the NDP, for all this talk of the big network and the voter ID and crossover with the municipal guys because of the relationship with Candy Stewart, that did nothing. Now, I think it was, I was watching Baldry and Zussman's coverage. I think Zussman pointed out that in 2020, the NDP only won 7 of the 180 polls in that riding. Like, there's no enclave, there's no little neighborhood there that is like the NDP neighborhood where they can hope to suck votes out of. Once the first 5% of votes were in and Falcon was comfortably ahead, you could project. In fact, I think Bob Mackin projected the moment polls closed. So it was a foregone conclusion. But I am interested in the trends.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some looking at, I've forgotten, is it Dallas Brody, the BC Conservative candidate, getting, obviously not enough of a percentage to make a difference, but there were a number of seats in the last election, and I went back and looked at the numbers, and so I think it was something like, and I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say a non-decisive amount of seats. I want to say 4, where the BC Conservative vote definitely played a perhaps decisive role, and then 2 or 3 others where it would have made it very close. Yeah. But so obviously it wouldn't have changed the overall results of the last election. That said, this is not a problem the BC Liberals want to have, where they have, even 2, 3, 4, or 5 seats where they might have won if not for, what will you call it, an insurgent BC Conservative vote. And we're talking about, 5 to 7%, but that's often more than enough to make a difference.
Yeah. Look, Langley East, by the way, where I live, was one of those ridings where it did.
It was.
But here's what I would say about the BC Conservative Party, and there was a lot of hand-wringing by the media and finger pointing and, oh, this is a problem, this is a problem. They got 6% in a riding where there was no doubt of what the thing was going to be. So 6% of people could easily protest vote, knowing full well that you're not actually endorsing John Horgan. The Brody name there, that candidate actually is pretty strong as far as a local candidate goes in a riding. Well-known family name in that riding, lived there a long time. This is not some, parachute from Fort St. John who just, we need someone's name on the ballot. They tried, the Conservative Party tried, we spent money on social media and tried to, they spent a little bit to try to kind of stir things up and got nowhere. 6% is nothing. It is not relevant in this campaign. I mean, it's roughly 1/10 of what Falcon got. So I'm not that worried about it. I think, the hilarious thing to me is like where the Conservative Party's flaw is with Kevin Falcon is they're like, oh, he's not conservative enough. Well, meanwhile, the NDP and Greens are like, he's a rabid conservative. He wants,
That's true.
I once saw him in a picture with Max Bernier. And like, it's so ridiculous, right? Like, you can't have it both ways, folks. Like, you know, like what that says is like the Greens and NDP have so much more money and resources to put that message out that if, you know, it's far more likely people, you know, would kind of be look at the Conservative Party and say, wait, you're saying he's not conservative enough? These guys are like, he's a rabid conservative. Like, what are you talking about? Kevin Falcon has deep roots in the federal Conservative Party, good relationships with all of the local MPs. Like, that is not, I don't know any of these Conservative Party of Canada MPs who think anything other than the BC Conservative Party is a complete joke. You know, a Mickey Mouse operation, as Aaron Gunn once famously called them. So, you know, it's like, I'm not that concerned about it. I think Falcon now in the House, he's going to consolidate this thing. And look, the number one issue in the next election is going to be affordability/economy. And the signs are not great in the States right now, economy-wise. They're heading into stagflation and things that we haven't seen since like the early 80s. It's very scary. Those will come to British Columbia and to Canada generally. And, you know, in a time of economic crisis, generally people have, you know, knee-jerked back to the Free Enterprise Party because they're the ones with the better record on the economy or the better perception of the economy. Yeah. And, you know, that will be Falcon's big advantage. And if you're a conservative out there, and let's say they've renamed the party, and so you're not voting for the Liberal Party, so you're not feeling like you're casting a vote for Trudeau, that will be a very welcome change, and I think, again, tamp down that Conservative Party vote.
Something that the party has, and Kevin Falcon has said they will look at doing, I think as early as potentially, I think there's a convention in a few months.
Convention is June 10th to 12th. I can tell you, my sense is that, as a riding president, Maclean, I can. My sense.
You're an owner when we talk about football.
That's right.
You're a president when we talk about politics.
That's right. My general sense, and I haven't seen the official agenda yet, is that there will be some sort of process announced or started at the convention, and then in the fall there will be after you kind of go through the. It's a big thing for the grassroots, right? Like you want to have as many name options on the table. You want to see where that goes. And then in the fall, by the end of 2022, they'll move into a new brand.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine showing up at the convention and all the colors are different? And it's like, bam!
Congratulations.
This is the Rhino Party.
We're now the Purple Party. Good job. So here we are. Yeah, so that work, I know there's a committee. I'm involved in it, and there's a committee that's meeting and kind of discussing the process, but you for sure want the grassroots 100% on board with whatever decisions made. But, you know, Falcon has said, like, I'm going to change the name, we're going to do it, and he's promised a root and branch rebuild, as Tom Fletcher likes to quote him for saying. I don't know, never heard of a root and branch rebuild, but it sounds comprehensive to me, so...
I mean, if you're doing the roots, you kind of have to do the branches.
I know. What about the leaves? What about the leaves?
Yeah, well,
what are the cherry blossoms? Are they being I don't know. Anyways.
A gentle pruning. A gentle pruning.
Off we go. The Green Party, only 10%. Kind of floundering.
I liked Rob's take on that, which was, we mentioned off the top, big grain of salt. It's a by-election with minimal turnout and not a riding that I don't think the Greens would publicly say they thought they were going to win. And so is it a big deal? No. That said, the Green brand in this country has strung together a few L's. The last federal election campaign was an unmitigated disaster. It just was. And the BC Greens, quite rightly point out that there's a difference between the two parties and they don't even always get along. And that's fair. But in the minds of the voters, especially your average voter, Green Party, there's going to be some overlap there. Mm-hmm. And you can only you can only string together so many negative results like that before it becomes a real perception problem. And so I think that it's probably important that the Greens have at least a decent showing in Surrey South and show that there is some, I don't know what the word is, not momentum, but definitely that they are still a viable third party in BC. Because again, federally, it's not pretty right now.
Yeah. Son is in a rough spot. And I think a lot of Sonia Furstenau is a leader. I think she and Adam do an admirable job for a two-person caucus in the House.
I agree.
But they are on a precipice of irrelevancy. And, they had Weaver, he stepped down. Now there's only two of them. They feel like they're withering away. And you wonder if Sonia, if she doesn't run again, or if Adam doesn't run again, would they lose that riding as well? They need to now go into full-on survival mode. They need to pick the 6 ridings in British Columbia they think they can win and pour every dollar of resources into that. Every announcement they do has to reference that. They identify the 6, the 4 other people in those, 4 other ridings that can win, and try everything they can to get 4 seats, to win 4 of those 6 seats in the next election. Now, Sea to Sky might be one. That's when they came quite close.
They were declared as winners on election night, ended up losing by something like 30 votes. I mean, that is definitely attainable.
Yeah, Jordan Sturdy says, he never doubted. No problems. No worries.
No sweat whatsoever.
No problem. No worries. No worries. Landslide Jordan. But, it's like, forget everywhere else. Hone in on those 6 ridings, because it's all or nothing for you now. Because if you are at 2 again, or heaven forbid you lose one or both of those seats, it's over. It's over. You're back to fringe status irrelevancy for a long time to come. And you've done so much work, and I think valuable work. You have a voice that needs to be heard. So pick your ridings. The other 5 are probably all Vancouver Island ridings, to be honest. And do whatever it takes to win there. And be pouring, if you've got $100 of Facebook to spend on Facebook, you better be spending $99.99 of it in those 6 ridings. Just hone in. The rest of the province will forgive you. I'm sure the rest of the Green Party members in the rest of the province will forgive you if they understand that you need a beachhead to survive.
I've spoken to some Green strategists and people in the party about this exact thing, and it's really interesting listening to them, because I think they're right when they say it's a double-edged sword, because yes, I think that what your strategy, as you outlined, is what I would advise them as well. And the response I always get when we talk about such things is, yes, but if we don't run at least close to a full slate of candidates, we get hammered for that. And then if we do run candidates, for the sake of running candidates in places like Peace River and Kelowna, and they're unsupported, then the risk of something like a bozo eruption is very high. And it doesn't matter if you're running basically a placeholder candidate in Kelowna, you're answerable for them. And so it's tough. They kind of have to strike a balance between finding the right candidates, the people that they feel they can stand behind, even if they're not going to win, while also concentrating resources in places they can actually win. It's a difficult balance to strike. I don't envy them, but I think you're right. I think for the next election, that's the strategy: is find whatever the number is, call it 6, and that's your campaign. You will have candidates elsewhere, but I mean that's where your focus is.
Yeah, you still have to run candidates elsewhere, because look, people in Peace River, the 2 or 3% who support the Green policies, deserve to have an outlet to vote for those. Plus that money, that does generate revenue for you from the tax subsidy. You still run candidates across the province, but you have the honest conversation with them, right? Like, listen, you're there, we appreciate it, you're putting forward Green values, please stick to the book, and we're focusing in on these 6 so that next time we can be competitive in 60 ridings instead of 6. Yeah. And, hopefully, look, Green Party members, they are often attracted to the party by climate change, for example, other environmental issues. One would hope then that they have a long-term vision for the planet, and thus for British Columbia, and thus for their little political party. Maybe that's the way you kind of sell it. Like, listen, this is a 2-election strategy. We want to be competitive in 6, so that next time we can be competitive in 60. And because you can't go, they cannot go backwards again. It's over if they do.
No. Oh, exactly. And the other thing I would say is that if you take the lesson from the last federal election is, listen, you're quite right to think about climate change and the environment, but your views on OSE, for example, Israel-Palestine, don't care.
Yeah.
Not important. Not something that a provincial politician needs to be weighing in on. Just not. No.
Yeah.
just don't go there.
Yeah. I would argue it's very important, but definitely not something that they should be. Definitely not something they should not be weighing in.
The Peace River South candidate for the provincial Green Party has a detailed policy position on the Israel-Palestine affair.
I just think they need to be, not anti-Semitic. Is probably
yes. That's probably even better advice.
Seems like a low bar to get over to most of us normal human beings in British Columbia, but you'd be surprised. It's tough for some of them.
Yes, it's a rough surprise. Is there anything else politics-wise you want to talk about this week?
We should talk about Steph Cadieux.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I almost forgot. Look at me casting ahead. Yes, she is now officially Stephanie Cadieux, who is now the former MLA for Surrey South. Has taken over an incredibly important and awesome role, quite frankly, in Ottawa. As the what is the title? First disability?
Accessibility advocate.
Yes. I want to. There's got to be a way to color the something czar. So we have to work.
The accessibility czar.
I like it. I mean, that's perfect. Yeah. Anyway, and for more directly for BC politics, it means we have yet another by-election coming. It has not yet been called, but it can now be because her resignation was formal over the weekend. The premier has a few months, and he may choose to take them this time. This will be a much more closely contested affair.
Yes. Surrey South, she won by 4 points last time, about 1,200 votes. That is generally a BC Liberal riding. I would think as long as the candidate isn't crazy, I think there should be, that should be a hold for the BC Liberals. The NDP will try a bunch of different things again, I'm sure, messaging-wise, because Surrey will be a battleground in the next election. I thought it was funny. Zussman had Diane Watts on from BC Liberal headquarters, and he's like, "So, Surrey South. Nobody knows Surrey better than you, Diane." And you could just see Diane like, no. Lots of people know Surrey. No, I can name them all. Tons of people know Surrey better. I do not believe she will be the candidate there. But they have to find the right candidate. It needs to be someone who kind of fits into the idea of the rebuild, the root and branch rebuild that that Kevin has promised. I know they're looking for that person. I imagine the NDP are doing the same. They're looking for the person who can win that riding. It's complicated by the fact that you have the municipal election in October, which means like everyone and their dog has a slate in Surrey right now, right? You got McCallum, he has a full slate. You have Brenda Locke has a full slate. Suk Dhaliwal is putting together a full slate. I hear Ginny Sims is putting together a full slate. Like, that's a lot of potential politicians tied up with civic responsibilities or hopes. You're talking about, I think there's 10 councillors in Surrey. So you're talking about like 50 people tied up just on slates, let alone all the independents who are running and school trustees, etc. So, finding that right person. If you're Falcon, you're looking for someone. I think you'd love to replace Stephanie with another woman. I think you're looking for, probably someone of ethnic minority background, like something that kind of sets them apart, but also someone who can come in and contribute right away at question period, who's going to be a dogged opposition critic, who can build on Trevor Halford and also be told by the premier to go talk to themselves in the bathroom and think about what they've done, and swore at in QP. So I'm sure the search is on. I haven't heard any names yet, but when I do, I'll let you know.
Do people talk to themselves in the bathroom? Is this like
John Horgan says they do, or they should.
Is this like an aspect of the human experience I've completely missed out on?
We didn't really talk about it.
I heard that. I was like, is that a thing?
Maybe
singing in the shower, sure.
Maybe Hall Corrigan.
People like go into the bathroom and talk to themselves. This is new. This is a new one to me.
Maybe it's a coping technique for John. Like Hall Corrigan, he starts to feel it rising up, and he goes to the bathroom. He's like, John, Premier Dad, you're better than this. Don't get angry. Don't let the Hulk out.
Thing in the mirror. Okay.
Don't let the Hulk out, he says to himself. Premier Dad, Star Trek, dad jokes. I can do it. And off he goes. By the way, can I just talk for a moment about Capital Direct? Your other little show you have on the Checkerbox TV or whatever it's called.
Got like 4 burns in one sentence there. I'm impressed.
Yes, you're welcome, BC Poly, no context. And also Checkerbox TV if you want to use this as a promo. Farrier, the water carrier for the NDP, sorry.
Oh, be nice, be nice.
The NDP, the good loyal soldier that he is, basically downplaying the F word in the House. Not a great look. Like, even the Premier says it was out of line. Just go with what the Premier says. Like, yeah, he was out of line. There's no defending it. Like, the Premier of the province of British Columbia should not be using that kind of language in the House. Especially after introducing a 10-year-old child that he ran into in the precincts.
Yeah, that was less than ideal. That was. I mean, and you're right. I mean, Horgan himself has said that there's absolutely no. I can't do that.
If Horgan wants to swear, come on the podcast with me and swear a little bit. I like it. It's good. Sometimes you get a little bent out of shape. I understand it, but you're the Premier.
That's not a show I would watch.
You're the Premier. Me and John Horgan. That'll be his retirement plan. I'm here live with the ambassador to Ireland, John Horgan. How the F are you doing, John? I'm effing great, Jordan.
I think it's a fantastic idea. He'd probably be very good at it, and I think Horgan's it's a good show. And you're right. I mean, if you watch the show, we all disagreed. It was like, he can't do that. He can't. No, exactly. And he knows better. And Horgan himself says he can't do that, and he knows better. So yeah, totally. I mean, I agree.
Totally. So, anyways, I digress, but I found that kind of annoying. Back to Steph. Look, we shouldn't downplay. Like, amazing career as an MLA, dedicated public servant, put a lot of professional opportunity aside in order to serve the people of Surrey and British Columbia. I believe still the longest running Minister of Children and Families in British Columbia history, if I remember reading my Shaw Zussman, whatever book, what's it called?
Matter of Confidence.
Matter of Conflict, whatever. So, fantastic person. Like, you couldn't ask for a better person. And was always in politics for the right reasons. And so she'll be very much missed. You can see how popular she was, both with her colleagues and even on the other side of the House. There was, the usual touching tributes. And we wish her the best. I'm hopeful that the Trudeau government and future Poilievre governments listen to her as accessibility czar, helped her and help implement the vision. She's doing important work. And so Steph, thanks, and looking forward to seeing you around Surrey.
I think we should definitely make the title Accessibility Czar a thing, and that should be a legacy. Jordan, is there anything else at all that you feel like you want to talk about this week?
Well, Maclean, this is a sad day.
Because
it is your last show. Maclean has tendered his resignation as leader of the wee Orca and is headed off to the private sector. I think the Orca was already private sector.
That's true.
And that means no more BC Poly Hotstove for you and me.
I know.
Ooh.
Some people watching this are very happy right now.
The person who's in the bunker of the NDP World Headquarters typing it up every week is very happy.
Well, they get that. You always say that. The transcripts are all automated now, but they do read them feverishly.
Oh.
But yes, no, it's this is it. This is the last one. This is strange for me. This is the last time I'm going to have to figure out Skype issues with you.
Yeah. I'm going to miss you, Maclean. This has been good. Like, we've done, I'm not sure how many episodes, but definitely more than Unspun. And we've...
It is more than Unspun.
And I
wish that we had counted. I would have liked to have known like how many of these we did. And I never had time to just count them, and we never numbered them. So I'm gonna miss you. This has been fun.
I know this has been good. It's been good.
We always talk about politics as we see it. We never take it too seriously. There's usually some bad jokes, and we usually get to talk about football too. I mean, it's a pretty good show.
It's pretty good.
And without letting people into the numbers too much, it's become a pretty popular show too. I do hear about it from time to time.
I was at the local pizza place the other day, picked up pizza for the fam, and this guy gets out of a pickup truck and is like, "Hey, love your podcast." And I'm like, "You sure?" Oh, thanks.
Positive. And most of you who are, I will say, listening to this, because the vast majority are our podcast downloads. You're missing out on the Twisted Steel and the Sex Appeal, and now you're going to miss out on it permanently. I'm sorry. It's been a lot of fun. I'll have a lot more to say as the week goes on. I'm going to write a farewell to the Orca thing, and without getting too much into what's going to happen after that. This show has been fun.
Yes.
I think we started it. Was it like the very first week of the site?
I think so. We've been on since the very beginning. We had the tried and true formula of you, the calm, level-headed, even keel host, and me, the ranty, angry, I can't believe this is happening guy. So we've played those roles well. It's been good.
I think we've played the roles very well, and Jordan, people should know that you're actually like the nicest guy in politics. You played your role of the ranty stuff, but like you are I'm gonna say it. Like, you will not find a more decent, best priority, and genuinely warm and fuzzy human being. And this show has just been a pleasure to do.
Yeah, no, me too. And Maclean, I love that what you're doing for your family. It's a great opportunity for you. I'm excited to see and hear more from you in the future in that new role. I should mention, for the future of Hotstove, I'm gonna take a month off or so. But I'm looking at, I get to keep the brand because Maclean's leaving, so
it's true. I bequeathed it to him.
The sole survivor gets
to keep
the BC Poly Hotstove brand, so it's great.
Yes.
So I'm thinking sometime around BC Liberal Convention, which is June 10th to 12th, relaunching around there. So yeah, follow me on Twitter at Jordan Bateman. Although I'm sure I can beg the Orca folks to also put it on there. I'm not sure what's going to happen distribution-wise, but we'll figure something out.
It's funny, when we first started having conversations about the show in general, and we were running the Orca, it was your idea to do podcasts in general. I was not a podcast person. I had literally never listened to a podcast, not once. It's just not something I did before we started podcasting. And you kind of had to convince me, like, well, let's do the show, put it on Spotify and iTunes. And I was like, that's for music. I don't think that's worth. But I mean, you're smart. You've been around for a while. Let's give it a shot, and it'll be fun, which is really all that matters. And it's been 4 years, and there's some good podcasts on the Orca, and this is the one that started it all. Yeah, and the numbers are pretty good.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. And I've enjoyed listening to Business Beat and Unspun, even though I like teasing them with poor underscore, and Elected, and Justin's podcast, Second Look. It's been great content, and that's hopefully can continue on in various forums. And we're going to miss you. And I thought Greg Douglas had a really nice piece about Russell Wilson, but also about you. I don't know how much you paid him for that piece, but clearly...
He sent me the piece on Friday, and but in the email with obviously the piece attached, he was like, "Listen, don't change a word of this. Normally, I have a very light touch as an editor, and I try to leave people's voices intact. But he was like, "Listen, I don't want a word of this touch, not one. Like, it's perfect. If there's an apostrophe missing, don't touch it." Oh, all right. And it's Greg Douglas, so it's probably
Dr.
fine.
Sport. Yep.
And I'm reading it, and I'm like, I don't see what the issue is. All this stuff, nice, cool stuff about Russell Wilson. Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
No, it was very well deserved. Well deserved, Maclean. I know I speak for all of our viewers, listeners, readers, that we wish you all the best. We hope we expect great things from you, and we're excited to see where life's adventures take you. And swim on, my friend. You'll always be in the pod with us, even if it's not visible.
Well, thank you very much. And I'll leave you with my favorite line about politics in general. That politics is like salt water, good to swim in, hard to swallow. And
well done.
Thank you. And so, for the very last time, I'm going to say it. For Jordan Bateman, I'm Maclean K. I mean it. Happy politics.